Hey, how's it going? Good morning, everybody. It is roasting hot. It's 7:10 a.m. I'm not a morning guy. I'm not a heat of the day guy either, but I am at the corner of Saracen and Ratchadami Road. If you went off in this direction, you'd hit Central World Mall. Lumpini Park is directly behind me. We're gonna go up, well, we're gonna go across this road and then go up Langsuan and go up to the Chitlom BTS on Sukhumvit. So let's take this early morning walk. I've been out walking around since about 5:30, so I'm getting a little hot, but I'm gonna make my way back to the train. Well, let's just walk a short distance up. We're still across from the park. As a matter of fact, the new dog park here at Lumpini that, I don't know if it's I don't want to say Japanese Embassy, I want to say the Japanese Foundation has sponsored it. It's small, but it's there. It wasn't there before, but then across from the park on the left side, the fancy-ish kind of Langsuan Street. And I only say it's fancy. We're very close to all the embassies. Right past Langsuan is Wireless Road, where you'll find 20, 25, including the US Embassy and Japan. Some huge embassies and a lot of business going on there. So this area like Langsuan has some high-end steakhouses and some very expensive condos in this area. Yet, even in one of the more expensive parts of town, you can oftentimes find some deals. Now this is Banana Run. It's a higher end running store for your shoes and watches, that type of thing. Lumpini's at the top with running clubs. The same with Benja Kitty. Down here in Lower Sukhumvit. Anyhow, there are parks all over Bangkok. Over by Mochit, there's the three parks connected. Chatuchak Park, Queen Sirikit Park, and Train. They're huge compared to these more in the central part of the city. And if somebody asked me where to get a top-of-the-line bike, I'd send them over here to Pro Bike. It just pops into my head as one of the largest. 10 a.m. until 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, 10 to 6 on, I assume that says Sunday. Yeah, I don't have my glasses on. Anyhow, it's not going to be cheap for the latest, greatest carbon fiber, but it might be worth it if you're not hauling a bike from the other side of the world. Of course, look at Facebook Marketplace. You never know. Somebody might have bought that, whatever it is, $1,000 carbon fiber setup and used it 3 times. Now there's no light here, but you can get into Lumpini Park just across the way. That tree's in the way. So if you were coming from Langsuan, you can kind of walk straight across. And before we get up to Langsuan, there's some cool little side soys with some 6- and 8-story buildings. This area is really worth exploring if you want to be in that Lumpini 5 times a week. In fact, I'll take you down to the one. I know I had a buddy who moved into this building years ago. I think he's now living in Malaysia. But there are 2 right across from Lumpini that, again, if somebody were to ask me, hey, I love Lumpini, but that area is kind of expensive. I'm not saying these places are going to be cheap, but compared to some of those condos that are 200 square meter right behind the US Embassy, forget it, unless you're on a huge expense account. And there you go, the Bantanyan Saracen. Don't know anything about it. It just looks reasonable from the outside, but if you told me, no, I pay 80,000 a month in there, I wouldn't be surprised. And over here, this is the Kloss building. Yeah, so let's head back over to Langsuan, just showing you a couple of different options. I know there's a couple of Klosses around, but this is the one closest to Lumpini. Nice building right on the corner. I believe this is fairly new. Sinhor Lumpini? Maybe 15 stories? I can't remember. I'm out walking around oftentimes 5 days a week, and a lot of these construction sites bleed into one another in my brain. So here we go, Langsuan, right at Lumpini Park. Let's take a look up this street. And that's another reasonably sized building. Whether you consider it reasonably priced. Again, you have to remember all these embassies, all these folks that work at the U.S. Embassy, and there are 3 gigantic buildings. There's 2 right across the street from another, and 1 down Ratchet Army. So there are a lot of diplomats in town, and they're not oftentimes too interested in living 10 miles from work. I don't blame them. So even some of these smaller places, I know a lot of the higher end diplomats, they're probably receiving all kinds of huge expense accounts, but it probably gets a little smaller as you move down the line. And it's the tropical Langsuan. Service departments for rent. There you go. Another big construction site over here. Don't know what's coming. Picture Hercules, but I think Hercules is the building company. This large building was definitely under construction the last time I walked through here. A month ago? I'm trying to see the name. Okay. The Nibbit Langsuan. Yeah, they were laying this tile. Maybe it was 2 months ago, but it wasn't that long ago. And there is some pretty darn good barbecue around Bangkok, but you'd have to put this Smokin' Pug on the list. They used to have a second location. This is the original, I believe. The second location was kind of by the Millennium Towers down at the end of Sukhumvit Soi 20. I think the pandemic and all hurt that, and it never fully recovered. I don't know if Bart is still the manager. Really nice guy. I've been in the Soi 20 2 or 3 times, and in this location once. He was managing, I don't know if it was both of them or at least the Soi 20. So hopefully he's still around. Really nice guy from Annapolis. We talked sailboats for a couple of hours. The izakaya, Japanese barbecue. And across the way, this Sindhorn village. Again, more beautiful condos. Over there, that Munich building, that is going to be, including this building, just tons of folks that work at these embassies. And I'm not saying they're driving the price up, it's just supply and demand. There are only so many beautiful condos within walking distance of all these embassies. And I would do the same thing if you were the landlord of one of those buildings and you could command 60, 70,000 baht for something that's 25,000 baht a mile away. Heck, supply and demand. Here's a 24-hour animal hospital. That is the one thing we'll talk about over and over. It's a little difficult to find an affordable condo to have your dog, that type of thing. This is I was going to say it's a one-lane road, but somebody's coming up behind me. Okay, yeah, even on those one-lane roads, you would think you just peek down here and walk out. Nah, you better look over your shoulder, because right here a motorbike could be going 30 miles an hour. Nah, but what I was getting at, part of the deal on charging 80, 100, 200,000 baht for a huge condo, they kind of lighten up the buildings, even the landlords at times on, yeah, go ahead and bring that Chihuahua. Now, if you're coming over with 2 Great Danes, you might want to consider buying a house. That's going to be difficult. Even places that accept dogs are oftentimes going to have weight limitations, and sometimes I don't necessarily agree with it, but they'll have breed restrictions. And you'll be surprised. Right off the bat, you're going to think pit bull and Rottweiler, but oftentimes, being a mailman, I oftentimes saw these restrictions, and sometimes poodle was on the list. Poodles? They can be angry little dogs. This is the Ambassador Court. Well, any dog can be angry. I've told the story a couple of times. People ask me, carrying mail for 33 years, how many times I was bit by a dog, and I was nipped a bunch of times. I lost count. I don't know, 5 or 6, but that doesn't really count. The only time I got really bit was by a Labrador, and that was 4 rusty nails going through my hand. That wouldn't be on anybody's list as far as an aggressive dog, but this owner just never walked that poor animal, and he was mean. Natural farmer, or he was made to be mean, however you want to look at it. But every time I'd walk up, it'd be like this. I had to walk up and put the mail in, and there was a big window right here, very high. I mean, the window was like 6 feet off the ground, and his solution to never walking his dog or being home for, he'd go to work and go out with his buddies for 15 hours. He'd just leave the windows open, and okay, that's good enough for my dog. Until the one day the dog had enough and just came barreling through the window and chomped down on my hand. Now there's a Via Market over here down in the basement. This is to-go flowers. Again, this is the fancy part of town, so you never know when you're going to need a dozen roses. Let's see what that costs. I'm not sure if that's coming out, but I kind of like what number 6 looks like. Oh, here it is right here, 800 baht. That's not too bad, really. I know the florist by the Via Market in Phrom Phong. Just out of curiosity, in a video not that long ago, I asked her how much for that dozen roses. I thought she said 600 baht. And I'm not a super fine diner. I know there are some pretty darn expensive restaurants in this area. There's some medium places as well. But even the most, I'm not going to say the most expensive restaurants in town, you can quite easily, just a couple, an expensive bottle of wine, 300-400 bucks on your meal, no problem. But there are some very, very good restaurants that could cost hundreds of $200 or $300 in many parts of the world that might be 80 bucks over here. Now this is the Peng Seng Mansion. You might say, that looks like an older building. What I'm seeing is a huge amount of space. So I don't care if that building is 40 years old. If it's 90 square meter units, it's going to cost 4 or 5 times more than the average 30 square meter unit. Here's homemade Italian cuisine. A lot of higher end Japanese restaurants. The Japanese embassy is a 10-minute walk from here, right under the One Bangkok Mall, which is fairly new. Less than 2 years, I'd guess. And this is called the Target Estate Residence, Langsuan. Yeah, I'm not great on dates, but I can remember if something was built since I lived here or moved here in 2022, and I was definitely at the grand opening of the M-Sphere Mall and One Bangkok. And there is Vaso Spanish Tapas Bar. I was in there years ago. I know it was before I moved here and before the pandemic. Call it 2018. There's an acai story restaurant or shop right next to an El Gaucho. You'll find those all over Thailand. Argentinian steakhouse. Rong Grantana Executive Residence. A lot of nice wine shops in the area. Here's the Wine Merchant. I am not exactly sure what's going on with that Mercedes SUV and the, what is it called? The Humvee and that Range Rover. They are always parked there. And I'd forgot the name, the Duchess Hotel. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe it's the owner of one of the fancy restaurants in there. I don't see a lot of Humvees running around Bangkok. And that's high mobility, multi-purpose wheeled vehicle, Humvee. I kind of like things better when you just called a Jeep a Jeep. Trees are in the way, but this is a beautiful building. The Q, Langsuan. And the Centra Point, that's a popular hotel all over Thailand. You have the One Centra Point on top of the Terminal 21 Mall. There's a couple of beautiful dogs. Like I say, plenty of dogs in this area. If you're gonna pay over 100,000 baht for your unit, probably have a good shot at having a dog and possibly even affording a maid and a dog walker. I'll oftentimes see these folks walking around. I'll say, look, she has 4 dogs. And Boone reminds me, that's the maid. She's walking, 3 people's dogs. All kinds of beautiful buildings. Look at the size of those patios there. That could be the size of many studios around town. And that first building was the Grand Langsuan. Eating our boundaries, I always use that pointy building, the Conrad Hotel on Soi Room Rudy. If you took a left from the Conrad, in 5 minutes you'd be up at the Plone Chip BTS. But straight ahead is the next train stop, the Chit Lom station, and then you pull in, if you're going to the left, into Central Siam, and you'll find Siam Paragon Mall. Across the way, a fancy international school, Langsuan campus, the Regents. I love those balconies. In fact, if for some freakish reason I could find a unit that had a balcony that size and just a 28 meter attached to it, I would rent it. It's probably a 30 square meter balcony. And there's the Hotel Muse with an old Jaguar parked out front. Not as tall a high-rise, but another beautiful looking building, the Garden View Mansion, 48 Langsuan. Sorry about that, I'm getting a little mumble mouth going into my 3 hours of walking around. At least we're getting a little bit of wind. I took off at, I don't remember, 5:25 in the morning, and it was roasting hot. Not a breeze to be found. It's still hot. In fact, it's hotter once the sun pops up. That makes sense, but just that little bit of breeze, it feels like the temperature is 10 degrees less, to me anyhow. And even in, I'll call this one of the more expensive parts of town, you're gonna have your grab and go food that's 60 baht. I don't care if you're a millionaire, everybody wants a deal, plus many of the folks working in these buildings, they gotta eat. But oftentimes it's said online, and it's kind of true, it's more expensive to cook at home a lot of the time than it is to just get your chicken on the way to work, unless you're whipping up whatever it is, a dozen pieces of chicken at home, and that takes work and all. If nothing else, it's a break even. By the time you making fried chicken, okay, that's a lot of ingredients you need to pick up, or you can just grab that one drumstick for whatever it is, 25 baht. And the same with these little coffee and smoothie stands. You know, not too many Thais are going to Starbucks when it's 50 baht to get a really nice cup of coffee right here. Now, I'm not a coffee guy. I know a lot of purists would say, well, a lot of that is instant coffee and that type of thing, but I'm sure if you look around hard enough, you'll find freshly ground beans, espressos, anything you want. It's going to be cheaper than going into a Starbucks, or even the Amazons are everywhere over here. This is a nice building, little 7-Eleven on the left, a big one. But right behind this high rise, if you were to go off to the left where that bicycle just came from, there's a little shortcut where you can cut over to Ratchathani Road and not have to walk up to the top of one of these streets. It's always good to know these shortcuts. Another beautiful building. Now that is a good looking Starbucks, but it might also be a $5 or $6 cup of coffee. I need to get back over here. I've had a couple of nice meals there at that Ban Langsuan, just for whatever reason. Oh, and this little strip of food stalls is new. Well, it's new to me anyhow, and I think I was here less than 2 months ago. Right next to the, the entrance to the portico, back in the back there. I'm not going to cross the street right now, but there are some really cool six-floor buildings off on the left, and a bunch of restaurants in here. Right there used to be, what was the name? It was like an American-style diner. I'm sorry to see it went. There's an izakaya above, and I don't know what's going on up there, if it's office space. And right over there, that Lemon Farm. I've never had a meal in there. As I walk by and look at the signs and all, it kind of has that farm to table vibe. You know what? This is also called the portico. Yeah, I'm not certain. I thought that apartment building was also the portico, but if you look up on Google Maps, the Portico Shopping Center, you'll see those those two places. Now, whenever they have the flashing lights like this, it's usually, let's see, no, this says it's a travel company. Yeah, those were all tourists, but whenever I see the flashing lights and the bus comes by, it's full of soldiers or that type of thing. But I guess the old travel agency is throwing the lights on. And all this campus off to the left here are the grounds for Mater Dei. With a name like Mater Dei, I'm going to assume it's a Catholic private international school. I did a little bit of time at Our Lady of Fatima. I believe we played Mater Dei in California. Of course, this is Thailand. They might pronounce it in a different way. I say IKEA, they say IKEA, but when in Rome, I'll say IKEA. And it looks like a beautiful school grounds. I stopped pointing out the 7-Elevens. I probably walked by 3, maybe this is the 4th. And I've been told by, well, 2 people that Smith & Company Burger, Pasta and More is pretty darn good. Right next to a Get Fresh. You'll see those all over town. It's just that. Salads and healthier options. And the Sexy Cow and Sexy Pizzas moved up here to the corner of Plonchit Road and Langsuan. You can see the long line of folks waiting for a motor taxi. Here we are. We've made our way up to Plonchit Road. There's a nice skywalk above. Can't remember. I think it goes in between Chitlom and Plonchit. BTS. I said we were going to kind of pop out on, you don't hear horns that often, at Central World Mall, but it's just down the way, a short distance. And they also changed the flow of traffic depending morning or evening. So there are 3 lanes coming in this direction, and I can't remember, I think there's 3 lanes going in the opposite direction in the evening. Not positive on that. Now, it's not that far a walk to, in fact, I might do it. Yeah, let's do it. Let's head off in this direction and go to the Plonchit BTS. We're gonna go past Wireless Road, and I forget what the name of the road is. There is absolutely nothing on the road except condos right behind the embassy. There's no 7-Eleven, no food vendors, no nothing. In fact, it just looks like a suburban area anywhere USA. I mix up all these malls. I think this is the Central Mall, and then as we get closer to Plonchit, it's the Central Embassy Mall, and then behind us it's the Central World Mall. All kinds of ladies hard at work with the grab-and-go food. It's all super affordable. They'd actually prefer that you scanned if you have a Thai bank account. In fact, a lot of them, it's scan only. They don't want to deal with cash. I think the pandemic turned a lot of that around. See, here's the chicken lady right here. Some pieces are 30 baht, others are 17 baht. Every time I show like a chicken lady like this, somebody might say, yeah, but how old is that oil, and on and on. Yeah, I get it. I doubt if she's changing the oil every day, but guess what? When I was 16 years old, I worked at a chicken joint. We didn't change the oil every day. I think it was, I think it depended on how many times you cooked, but it was more like every 3rd day. Who knows? That was in, before I graduated high school, so the early 1980s. Maybe nowadays, in California anyhow, they make you change the oil every hour. Who knows? But I certainly wasn't poisoning anybody back in 1983. So what I'm getting at is, I doubt if that lady is in the business of using rancid oil and trying to get people sick. I think she's more in the business of, please come back and get my chicken for the next couple of years. And this is that street I was talking about, Soi Tan San. It's just fancy condos that are feet from all the embassies, including the US Embassy. There's actually, off on the left side here, there's another armed gate. All the hard-working motorbike guys. They all pull out one at a time, jump on. Never been in here, but this brew dog, people tell me it's pretty fun. A lot of craft beer options. Here's some nice artwork out in front of the One City Center building. Here comes a nice Porsche. Oh, he's turning in. There's a BNP Paribas International French bank in there. Folks will ask me about, hey, I see a Citibank. I think it's gone now, but it was over there by Soy Cowboy. I believe there used to be a Bank of America in town, and it would stand to reason. One guy said, I'm going to switch everything over to Bank of America so I can use the ATM. This was years ago, he said this. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. The Citibank that is over here, if you were to put your US Citibank card in there, you might as well be at a Bangkok bank. It's still going to charge you whatever they charge. I don't know, 220 baht. And then your bank's going to charge whatever it charges. Even though they're both Citibanks, that Citibank is more for business, not so much for consumer usage. So there's no free lunch. If you read things online that are 8 or 10 years old, there used to be a get around with Bangkok Bank. You used to be able to do an ACH transfer from Navy Federal Credit Union or whoever your bank was in the US to the Bangkok Bank branch in New York City. Then you're funding Bangkok Bank, you can then withdraw it over here without an ATM charge. They've since knocked that off. I don't know if it still works if you were able to set it up, say 10 years ago, but I don't think so. Banking, there are so many crazy regulations. It's hard to get around all that. People are still using the Schwab card to withdraw from ATMs and then Schwab refunds you. That's still working. I'm surprised it's still working this long. It was maybe even longer than 2 years ago where they were shutting people down in Mexico and Panama. I get it. You're not exactly their number one choice of customer if all you're doing is sticking in your social security check and then taking it out of an ATM machine and leaving $100 in that account just to keep it open. Now, if you have $1 million in there or even $500,000, sure, they might look the other way, but I would not rely on that plan. Many of us use the Wise Transfer app, and in fact, I just used it. The money just came in yesterday. I always do a large amount at a time, 10 grand. That took 3 days. It cost $77. But I've mentioned it before, if I were to have used Navy Federal Credit Union with a $25 flat rate fee, I would have received much less money in the bank, even though I paid $77. It's all about the exchange rate. So don't be fooled. If somebody said, I'll exchange the money for 0, all right, my question is going to be, am I getting 32 to 1 or 30 to 1? And 32 to 1 is much better, even if it's with a $70 fee. You just have to do the math. It's kind of like these tuk-tuks. There's no free ride. When the guy says it's free, he's taking you right to his brother-in-law's tailor shop. I use the tuk-tuks all the time and I love them. But from here to my home, I would probably say this time of day with 0 customers, hey, how about 100 baht? He'd probably say, yeah, let's go. And then I'd probably give him 140, a couple of extra 20s. During the evening, when it's raining and he can easily get customers, it's going to cost 200 baht. But then again, that's less than $6 US. So I'm hardly calling that any kind of a scam. And I like that. I did the same thing. I busted up a bunch of Mexican tiles and did a mosaic out on my patio tables. Well, I did that in San Diego. You can go down to the tile stores and buy huge bags of broken tile. Just, you know, if they were cutting some tile and they chipped off a corner, they would just hit it with a hammer and put in a big bag, and artists and different folks would pick up those bags for $3. And this is Wireless Road, looking off in the direction. The U.S. Embassy will be on the right and left. All kinds of embassies down the way. Even in the, what is that fancy building at the Conrad Hotel? I think there are 15 embassies in there, just smaller office types. But if you went up to the right, you'd be at Lumpini Park. And on the left would be the One Bangkok Mall right next to the Japanese embassy. They call it Wireless Road. The original wireless radio station was where One Bangkok Mall is today. I could have stayed on the walkway and it would have took me down to the Plonchit BTS, but I like to be down on the ground. Oh, if we went off in the opposite direction, the US Embassy, the Swiss Embassy is up on the right. And I'm not sure what's going on here. Together for Sustainability, Smart Bench. All right, Hungary's in the house. And here's the first set of stairs for the Plonchit BTS, but I'm gonna keep walking on the street. A lot of these stands are only here in the morning. That is the old school bus. Sometimes it's 8 baht, sometimes it's 12. But just up ahead, you're gonna see a line of folks waiting for the One Bangkok shuttle. Again, they're in an organized horseshoe there, but it's free. It's kind of intended to take you from the Plonchit BTS over to the new One Bangkok Mall, but it's whatever time, 7:30 in the morning. And I'm not saying a lot of these folks aren't workers in that mall, but many of them are just smart folks that understand, here it comes. The One Bangkok shuttle is a nice way to take a nice air-conditioned ride and get over there for free, from the train anyhow. And you'll find another one of these free buses at the Udom Suk to get over to Mega Bang Na, where the IKEA is. But yeah, it's a nice system. Is an escalator to get up to Plonchit BTS, right in front of Siam Pharmacy. Very popular, oftentimes affordable. Don't be afraid to ask for Thai generics. If you don't mind taking a generic, you can save some bucks. There's also a Siam Pharmacy up by Prakanong. And this is a large location. You're gonna have to do your homework if you're taking all kinds of different prescriptions. I don't know anything about it. I'm kind of just taking a lot of supplements and all, not a lot of medication. I do know they're not much in the business on passing out opioids over here. So unfortunately, if your back is just shot and you're taking all kinds of hydrocodone, that kind of thing, you can see this is a big line for the One Bangkok, but I guess it beats paying 20 baht for a motorbike if you were to get off it up there by Chitlom and have to go down to work by Lumpini. And we'll show you real quick, at the beginning of this video, I showed you the Smoking Pug, which is good. But right here at the Chitlom BTS, Billy's Smokehouse down here on the left. Really darn good. And right next to that is a La Monita. Your favorite Mexican restaurant since 2009. I know they have another branch at the M Quartier. Hey, well, there you go. I've been wandering around. I'm starting to get mumble mouth here, which means it's getting hot. So I'm gonna go on home, take a shower, and relax. I really appreciate you walking from Langsuan over here to the Plonchit BTS, and I might have mistakenly called it the Chitlom BTS for whatever reason. I mixed those two up, especially when I'm hot and tired. So forgive me if I did. All right, that was a workout. I just hauled this home down Soi 26. 2,600 baht worth. Hit the expat store. You're not gonna get much. Let me show you what you get for that amount of cash. Later, I'll probably go up to the Big C and load up on cheaper items, tomatoes, chicken breast, that kind of thing. Certain things I like getting at Via. The tortillas weren't too bad. I guess I'm used to the 10-inch. Those were 88 baht. 199 baht for a small thing of strawberries from Korea. Raspberries, or I think they're raspberries, 129. Grapes, seedless grapes, 145. Now, the watermelon, I can pick up a whole watermelon. That is 51 baht for, I don't know, under 100 baht at the Big C. But I'm out of fruit right now, and I'm not wanting to make a Big C run just to save 20 baht. So 48 baht on the pineapple. That's like 2 little mini pineapples. My pinto beans I love. I think I said they were on sale for 112 each. And again, I can buy a huge thing of carrots and cut them up, but sometimes I'm just lazy. I don't think this was that much. I guess it was 149. Call me crazy. Cheese isn't super cheap. This is just like the Safeway brand, but it's pretty darn good. I want to say it was $1.89. Monterey Jack, Pepper Jack, that's kind of hard to find, and I like that with when I'm making up my Mexican beans. Now, meat, yeah, this is, I think, the Australian meat or the Thai French meat. Yeah, TF, so Thai French. Just some sirloin cut up, $2.60. Whatever. I'm sure you can shop around and find cheaper meat. Oftentimes I go with the Australian meat, so a package cut up like that, and I just use that for steak and eggs, or maybe I'll make some sandwiches. Not really complaining, 260 baht, but maybe 350 or closer to 400 if it's the Australian. Australian and New Zealand meat is always more. Now the eggs, I always get the extra large. I accidentally bought the smalls, and Boone said, "What is going on here?" Always get the whatever it is, AAA size. Can't remember, 80 baht. You can get 60 baht a dozen eggs, but they're going to be these little tiny, they look like bird eggs. That bag of mixed salad, again, I think Big C you can get from the deli. Fill up a big bag of mixed salad, but that was only 60 baht. And then I get a couple of these fresh salads. One is a Greek, and I don't know what the other one is. 135 for the Greek, and 110 for this one. And they have different nuts and feta cheese in the one, and then I just stretch it with the other bag. I like my salad. That tzatziki, I get all kinds of things that I don't know if Boone's tried or not. I don't think she has. This was on sale, $1.19, something like that. And I know she'll like it. I kind of know her taste with the carrots, and we have some celery in the fridge. So there you go, 85 baht on the whole wheat bread. Yeah, I already said it's a little cheaper at Big C. So 2,600 baht. You know, it is what it is. Not everything is going to be super cheap over here. So when I hear different folks estimating $200 US a month for their food budget, I go out more than half the time. But you always want to have food at home. And oh, I forgot the bagels. I know they're not great for me. They are whole wheat, but I do like a nice bagel and cream cheese. I already have the cream cheese. Those bagels, it's kind of their deli or bakery section. Can't remember. 85 baht for 3, maybe 95, something like that. But they're pretty darn good. So there you go. There's a little expat grocery run, although there's not too much there. I can't really point out to too many 300 or 400 baht boxes of cereal. I'm maybe those beans, but hey, I get it. Maybe you can get those on sale at Walmart for, I don't know, 70 cents a can. And over here, they're going to be 114 baht on sale. But it is what it is. I'm not jumping on a plane and heading to Walmart anytime soon. So thanks again. Thanks for running around with me this morning. Where'd we come from? Up from Langsuan and then hitting the Via Market. So I'm going to put this food away and make some breakfast. I really appreciate you watching, and we'll catch you soon. All right, see ya.